Like if Terran is trying to push out of their natural and there's Dragoons out there, very hard. The Dragoons can descend onto the tanks, do damage, and run back out, and it's hard for Terran to get a lot of surface area. The same is true for if Terran contains a Protoss at their natural.
Well, on these spots and with these two players, I think that probably won't come into play too much. You know, it's going to be hard to rally units across that far of a distance and do any sort of contain. Normally on Eddie as well, it's like really a map where you want to get 3 bases as quickly as possible as Terran. They have a reasonable layout, and you know, you just kind of take all of your high ground on this map.
What do you think about scouting on the 9th probe here?
Yeah,
this is a very, very old way to scout in StarCraft. This was basically the original scout timing in the first few years. I'd say even the first half for a lot of StarCraft, to be honest. All the races scouted early on because at the time, or at that time I should say, players are much more busy trying to just get a glimpse of where their opponent was, where they put the buildings, and trying to almost intuit a response to that, where the game was much more mapped out. But scouting this early tells me that Rain must really want to try to find something right away or confirm that something's not there right away.
Well, it might be that he's looking for gasless expands, because Light has really been favoring that so far, right?
Yeah.
He really has been wanting to go for that gasless expand quite a bit.
You know,
shows he's quite strong with it.
Actually, in his career in the last 2 years, he's shown that. Not even in this matchup. He's done it against Zergs and Terrans as well.
Yeah.
He likes to occasionally throw out a cheeky, quick command center, and if you don't see it, and you don't punish it right away, he's already taking a lead. And against a very mechanical player like Light, that can be incredibly difficult to face off against.
Now, to be fair, the new way that you counter something like a quick probe with this is to do what Light just did, where you just get the late gas. So it turns the Terran build order into almost a non-build order, right? It's very slow factory, but it's safe. You're not going to die to something like a proxy robo. You're going to get your tank out in plenty of time. But the build itself is kind of, you look at it and you're like, well, this isn't what you wanted, but okay.
So the scouting of it, is the Terran afraid that there's going to be a rush coming that they can't just handle, or is there any presence of the probe being able to interfere with that, or is it?
Well, just the fact that the probe hits there that early, you look at that and say, okay, well, this is a situation where Zealots can run by. This is a situation where there could be proxy robo. This is a situation where many, many different things can occur. So it's just safer to slow down your command center a little bit. Get the gas up so that you can get siege tanks out to stop whatever's coming.
And Light, respecting that quick scout from Rain, gets that CC up later. But this also allows Rain to really leverage the situation in his own favor. He gets a command center, a Nexus over at his natural. And this is sizing up to be a pretty complex early game as far as openings go, compared to a lot of the other games we cast here in KSL, and that we really are casting the best of the best here. But a lot went into the planning here on both sides and how they're responding.
Yes, absolutely.
In a game where they're, for the most part, not really engaging each other, just getting a read on each other and trying to preempt any kind of attacks.
Yeah, and like, for instance, what Light's doing here, this is a very fresh response to being scouted quickly, right? I feel like a lot of this does come from that one map Snow played with the proxy robo. I feel like put us into these positions where there's an entire new set of different ways to play. Now, 2 factories coming up for Light. Again, pretty standard. The Zealot block on the ramp was really awesome from Rain, because he's unable to actually get in and see what this tech is. That probably means that we'll see an engineering bay.
Yeah, an engineering bay would seem to be the safest play.
Yeah.
Oh, no, I like that.
Oh, and that's an old school eBay.
Yeah. The very, very early days of StarCraft, one of the first things people realized was you could build your own building to stop their building from being made there. So the eBay being put here denies Protoss freely taking a Nexus without fighting to get it.
Yeah.
And, you know, Protoss, especially in cross-spawns, they tend to take that 3rd Nexus pretty fast and pretty freely.
Yeah.
And putting the eBay here, if this does finish, now, funnily enough, if it doesn't, then you know there's not an eBay back at home. So I almost wonder if this may cause him to switch into Reavers abruptly.
Yeah, there is the possibility of that. And honestly, there was another thing that I was thinking, that maybe if the scout had not come, I was wondering if there was a possibility that he actually finishes it for the scout.
Yeah, same.
125 minerals, you get a turret up at home, and you get a full scout of the main base is not a terrible deal.
And then you know if you need more turrets anyways, right? I mean, the eBay doesn't die that quickly.
Yeah, absolutely. But in this case, you know, it's done a little bit, not a lot.
Now, one thing to point out, I didn't see a probe over there to make a nexus, and I still don't see one now. So, seems as though there's not going to be an immediate third base. Protoss is going to power up a little bit more, and there it is, the Robotech.
Well, you called that. It does look like that's what we're going to see here from Rain. So he'll be going into that, but it is another eBay being made at home. And yeah, the Armory, that's absolutely what you'd want to get in this situation as well.
Armory is actually going to put Light into a pretty good spot overall, I'd say.
Yeah.
Now, note the Vultures came up there again to check and identify that there is not a third base, at least being taken there. There is an island on this map. If you do go for Reavers, you can take an island. This is sort of the old Lost Temple build of PvT.
That's exactly what he's doing, too, because we see the Stargate coming down, so this will be a very quick carrier build, which is strong on this map because of the islands again, right? If you open up with Reaver in a situation like this, you have that shuttle, you can take the third base, and you have carriers, so the third base falling is not even something you consider being a possibility.
Now, conceptually, this build being originated on the very first competitive StarCraft map, Lost Temple. I guess there was a few others around that time too, but you guys get the gist if you've been playing StarCraft for a long time. This is one of the few openings that's basically stuck around. Now, in this case, he goes straight into carriers, which again reinforces the concept of island expanding and defending while still having a real presence that they can take on a push.
Now, that Academy is late enough that if one of the first scans don't see the carriers, he is going to be in trouble with that. It's drop coming across the map. Yeah, his turret spread's not so bad. It's not like perfect for this situation. Like that's an anti-DT turret rather than Reaver turret. But if he sees this shuttle coming at all before it gets there, that's gonna be awesome.
Like we just
saw. Look at that, he sees it. Okay, that's huge that he sees it.
So shuttle speed's done now. Also typical with this kind of build. But it seems like as strong as this build is, and as old as it is, Terran would seem to have a better mechanism to adapt to this, which is not to frantically push into the Protoss or try to take the island away from the Protoss, but instead to freely grow on their side of the map as well. And carriers are quite strong, just in general, especially when paired with Reaver openings in modern StarCraft. In cross spots, it seems to me like healthy Goliath tech can more than handle this, depending on the control here of Terran. It doesn't seem like Dragoons with carriers and Reavers, I mean, they can, with good finesse, do damage, but also it seems like he could handle this. And by the way, I'm sorry, he never actually took the island. We saw the availability of the island to be taken later on, but...
Ooh, that mine! Oh!
Oh my gosh.
Sickest mine.
Yeah, that's a really well-placed mine, because that's exactly where you want to drop that.
Yellow Reaver still does full damage taste. This is an old proverb.
Now, he's stuck in here, right? You actually can't get out with the...
No, I think he just flies right out.
Oh, wow. Okay, that turret should have been placed a hex over then.
Yes, you are definitely right about that. That would be a slightly misplaced turret. Okay, so you were talking about how you think that the Goliaths should be able to deal with this still, and certainly in just a very straight-up fight, you would be correct about this. The reason why I think this is a very good build on this map, other than having islands, is because there's a lot of switches to high ground. And when you get those switches to high ground, the Protoss army fights so well, right? Because you're going to be missing a ton of shots going uphill. So what you'll see from Rain likely is dancing around through high ground situations where he's kind of making the Terran siege, he's getting the extra hits in, then he's retreating a bit.
So Terran's beginning to push. Protoss has got to be careful with that.
Oh my God. That was a sick snipe.
Yeah, the fact that
I beat you to it and I said, oh ho ho ho.
He actually killed the two Reavers in the shuttle, which more than
was there
halves.
two in there?
I thought there was. Maybe I'm wrong, but I thought there was two Reavers. No, I guess there was one. You're right.
There was one.
There was one because he had the Zealot and the Reaver earlier, and the shuttle never went all the way back. I stand corrected. So in this build, he gets shuttles out and then goes straight into Reaver tech instead of trying to just get two Reavers. Two is not always better than one in this case. And there's the fourth base. Now, that does not appear to be a contestable location, so Light is going to have to, through raw strength, push through this, which I think he can do, by the way, because he got rid of the Reaver.
He needs the macro a little bit longer, but yeah, I mean, it's not like he's missing his macro here, right? He hasn't really been slowed down this game. He's pretty much nailing his factory add-ons. He has a decent amount of siege tanks. But again, this is a situation where we're going to see a lot of tactical play, and that's something that Rain is very good at. You know, if you're fighting from high ground and things like that.
Yeah, there's a lot of ways that you can run around this. One thing about the way the tech develops for Terran when they're going against carriers is they no longer have vultures. So a lot of times, oddly enough, even though the carriers appear to be the biggest threat and they have to be answered or the Protoss wins the game, the Zealots become the real thing that actually wipes out the Terran's army.
Yeah, sometimes they definitely do. And the longer the game gets, we will see Psystorm, which is
right.
When you have Psystorm on high grounds with carriers, that's it. Like, Psystorm is so good against Goliaths trying to fight carriers because Goliaths have to be clumped.
The Goliaths, in a lot of ways, function almost exactly like Hydralisks do. And we know what Psystorm does to that if you have enough of it.
Yeah.
And even though the Psystorm does hit the interceptors, that's usually inconsequential.
Now, we have 9 factories for Light, only 1 add-on, so his Goliath count is going to be really large. Also, some beautifully laid mines, scouting where those carriers are out, even seeing that one time. You know, you have a really great idea of what's going on.
Only 2 gases out of the 4 bases for Rain have been taken, which means that he will not have any Templars. Now, that little thing we saw there where the carriers attacked and then stopped, that's so that because it's this weird thing in the game. The interceptors come out one by one the first time they attack, and then after that they all come out at once. And so he wants to have them, as we're seeing here, all come out at, well, they were all going to come out at once, but he decides to pull away because why would you stay in this position when the army is this much of a threat?
Definitely.
And similarly to Game 2, although the Protoss tech is different circumstantially, I actually think this game might end in a similar fashion where Light might just topple Protoss.
Yeah, there's a possibility, but right now he's chasing with his whole army 1 Zealot, so he can't be doing things like that. You have to be really, really, really decisive here. We need to see Light move out right now. He's got a huge amount of supply. Maybe he's waiting for 2-1 to finish up. Let's see, we're at 13 minutes. It should be done. Okay, he's at 1-1. That +2 should be done any second now.
Okay, Protoss is regrouping. And by the way, Protoss is set up to try to oh my god, that actual wall in there with the Dragoon stuck. He's got to be careful when he macros, man.
Yeah.
Now, seems like Light is going to try to break the back of Rain here in a second. Rain is getting in position. You can see he's debating possibly running around.
Light's army's a lot better right now.
It's a lot better.
This is really going to come down to these carriers, I think. All right, let's see it. A lot of vultures here to clean out those Zealots. Not as many Goliaths as you would think right now, but really he's got to deal with that ground army first. And the ground army is going to get shattered here. The Dragoons have to pull back.
Now, I will say Rain handled that pretty well. He came in there, he killed off some of the tanks with the carriers, and he pulled back once the Zealots were gone. He needs to reload with more Zealots, and as the tanks try to come in again, he wants to wait for the Zealots, as we're seeing here. When he has enough, he will come in and attack on top of that army. And I have to say, Rain really knows how to engage these armies. It's pretty incredible.
Light made a little mistake there. He lost like 8 to 10 extra vultures because he was trying to keep the attack going. He let the vultures fight the goons as they pulled back. Rain smartly stopped. He killed the vultures and pulled back as the tank Goliath moved forward. So some great control here so far from Rain. But Light is still macroing like a fiend right now on these 9 factories.
Yeah, and as the tension continues to build in the center of the map, Protoss is forced to ignore the exterior corners of the map, and we're seeing that with the upper left base being taken and no real availability to harass that. Remember that Shuttle and Reaver were shot down.
Yeah.
Even though that's normally used in the fight, a lot of times in moments like this, it's used to harass.
He took 2 bases. He took the mineral base and the top left.
Oh, I didn't even notice the bottom center. Yeah, you're right. It's
so good.
Now, this is a good way to flush Protoss out in the long run because Terran ends up with just a little bit more momentum.
Well, he needs to actually get an engagement
hold on. He's got DTs coming here. You know, there's no vessel here. Not that a vessel's the only thing that's going to stop DTs, but if those DTs are sent to additional bases around the map, that's another way to try to deal with this, is to max Terran's multitasking out. Ooh, that's a very bad angle to attack into.
Okay, he does have a vessel there. That's really, really good. Has to be careful not to lose that. He's got those 2-1 upgrades. I'm sure 3-2 is on the way. Ooh, look at that. I think he was trying to get that vessel for a second there, but some good pickoffs so far from Rain. Look at that. Very nice, very nice.
Now, Rain has taken this top center base as well to mirror the position that Terran has at the bottom, but there's no probes there yet. Meanwhile, this attack's coming here. Now, Terran is not sieged up. Now Terran is sieged up, and look at this beautifully Rain pulls away.
He's doing this so well.
Yeah, hardly any artillery even firing. It might have been better for him to actually whip around again. These guys are both reacting so quickly. Now, watch. The carriers try to target down the tanks. If the tanks are targeted down, over time, the Protoss army becomes superior. Dragoons and Zealots can win the fight.
Well, Light actually has 1,100 gas, so he can have more than one add-on pumping tanks and still make enough Goliaths to deal with this. And
Very true.
We really do need to see that. That's one thing that a lot of people screw up on is they over-counter the carriers. Okay, see, he has 3 add-ons. Oh my God, Light, you're so good. He has the top left base. He's so good.
And now we have a really good EMP over on those carriers. And I feel like we're watching a Terran almost play like a Zerg against his Protoss and just continue to gobble up the map. And now this army in the middle of the map is puny, it's inferior. The interceptors have been lowered to such a minuscule amount that I don't know that catch-up is realistic. And I think from here, Light can actually snowball this game into crushing Rain in the upper right corner of the map. In fact, not even necessarily taking out bases, but pushing all the way through.
This is flash level macro coming out of Light right now. This is absolute insanity. He's even taking the bottom right. He's expanding everywhere, keeping so many units in the center while spending all of his money and keeping pressure on. This is madness. This is so hard to deal with for Protoss.
Okay, he backs up again. Now, Templars are finally entering the game. But I worry this game is less about tech and more about expansions and the room for error here. Terran continues to push further forward here. Interceptors are coming out from the carriers, but it's not the ideal amount. He's not maxed out with 8 in each right now.
Well, hold on, though. He's actually starting to break through. Where are those reinforcements? Might end up losing quite a few units here. Those carriers picking off quite a few siege tanks, but now the Goliath's coming forward. They do have 3-2 upgrades trying to take down a carrier.
There's just enough tanks here. The ground army's beginning to be whittled away. Reinforcements are coming up. Supplies are virtually even.
He's got to be careful. You don't want to overfight with these Goliaths that are up front. You need to reinforce.
If Terran smashes this next push, Protoss smashes this next push, Protoss will be free to come through on the map and start to wipe out the upper left if he scouts it out correctly.
Yeah, and if you can kill everything in the upper left, then this becomes a real game at that point. Look at this, though. The Dragoons are starting to melt. These 3-2 upgrades, just fantastic. Almost, yes, gets another carrier. Gets another carrier. 3 carriers left.
Okay, but with the amount of bases that Protoss has, I'm worried this becomes more an issue of the ground army here. The number of gateways that Protoss should have should be very high. And if he can reinforce this with Zealots, Dragoons, Templars, he still might be able to push through here. As weird as it sounds, I think there actually is a realistic shot of Rain coming out on top.
In my opinion, I'm looking at this game right now, and the fact that he got him down to 3 carriers when he has this many bases, he's on 9 factories with 3-2 upgrades. I feel like the ground army, all it's doing is buying time for carriers who do damage, but now that the carrier count is so low, I think we're going to see some attack move action here in a 2-2 set.
You might be right, Artosis. The Terran upgrades are much better than the Protosses in this game, but if he keeps sniping the tanks, I just can't count him out yet.
Yeah. So he is fighting from the high ground here, taking a much more favorable engagement. Light backs up, he sieges, Rain turns around, gets out of there.
I question, though, how aware Rain is of these additional bases. All it would take is a Zealot and a Dragoon at each of these bases to interrupt all the mining. It's not like Terran has a lot of mobility here. There are not vultures really in this game right now.
No. You know, he's got such a high gas bank, you actually almost don't even want many vultures. Maybe to pick off a few units here and there, but he has already laid some mines. You see the Dragoons were going up to check, but they turn around. He does not want to run through a minefield right now.
Terran's outposted over here in the center location at 9 o'clock. Protoss has rebuilt a pretty crafty army here. Again, though, the income from Terran, it's very hard to match this. But Psystorm, Carriers, Dragoons, Zealots can absolutely destroy Siege Tank Goliath.
Yeah. Well, he's got the Vultures out now, so This is going to help a little bit, even though the Vultures are kind of the weak unit here. You can pick off High Templars really quickly. You lay these mines that help to buffer a bit as well. Look at this, he scans, he gets in there, picks off one. They aren't being that efficient as of yet.
Like
but all he needs to do is get on this high ground.
I feel like we don't have any observers with this army, which is certainly an issue. And the Vultures taking on these Templars, that's huge!
Yes, that is so big. And now Light has also taken this high ground position. And that was what Rain was using to stay in this game. Now we can see Light just attack forward into this mineral base.
Light might actually be able to topple him here. This is the moment that Rain absolutely cannot lose control of this game, and I don't know that control will really cut it at this point in time. There's just too many Goliaths. The siege tank's sieging up.
Oh man, there are a ton of Goliaths here. These 3-3 tanks will just chew through these Dragoons as well. Maybe pushing a little bit far forward with those Goliaths. Would love to see him pull back slightly, but Light right now so confident in his push.
And what were Dragoons is now a pile of blue goo as Terran pushes forward at this 12 o'clock location that has been contested this entire game. I think this is probably the moment where Terran will come out on top as Rain's supply is now below 120.
Wow. Just some amazing play. The interceptor's almost all gone. Even a couple dropships. GG!
GG.